Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Subscribers Town Hall for, what month is this? March. For March. Welcome to Subscribers Town Hall for March. I'm your host for this month, Community Manager Jared Huckaby. And if you've never seen a Subscribers Town Hall, that's our monthly show for our Star Citizen subscribers. We take questions exclusively from the Star Citizen subscribers on Spectrum in both a Subscribers Den forum post and live in our Spectrum chat. So if you are a subscriber and you want to submit questions for our broadcast today, join the subscribers channel up on Spectrum. You can also see the direct URL if that's more your speed right here on my video down below. But without further ado, let me introduce our guests for this month's broadcast. Straight from Montreal, Canada, we have our friends from Turbulent. How you doing, guys?
Very good. How are you guys doing?
Good. So
Cool.
why don't you guys introduce yourself, tell the folks watching exactly who you are and what you do.
So I am Benoit. Some of you guys probably see me in the studio updates. I'm the CTO and co-owner of this company called Turbulent. We've been in this project since the beginning, and so I oversee everything that's related to Star Citizen at Turbulent.
All right.
And my name is Benjamin. I'm a strategist here at Turbulent. I used to be a project manager for Star Citizen. I was actually the second one after Benoit took up into the project 4 years ago, a little more than that. And I've moved from a project management part to kind of a content strategy and community engagement position.
Gotcha. Now, you guys, like you said, you guys have been here since the very beginning. You guys are, I'll go ahead and say it, you're my favorite partners on the project. Now, we just launched Spectrum. So for folks who don't know, it's still a relatively new thing. How long has Spectrum been out now? 6 weeks?
Yeah, 6-7 weeks now.
7 weeks, right?
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what is Spectrum?
Well, it is the all-encompassing communications platform for Star Citizen. So it is meant to be the backbone for all messaging, whether you're in-game or out of game. Obviously, we start with out of game because there's need right there, and now we're trickling it to in-game, and so that's what Spectrum is. It's your one-stop shop for communication in the Star Citizen universe.
And at present, it's live chat and a replacement for our forum system.
Correct.
It is also the beginnings of our org forum system. For those folks who have used Spectrum, you've been in Spectrum quite a bit. You're also known as Balt.
Yeah.
On Spectrum.
That's
So if you guys have seen Balt in Spectrum, that this is the guy right here. That's what he looks like. So Spectrum. It's, like I said, live chat in our forums. Right off the bat, we've been taking questions from a forum thread in our subscribers den. With our folks not only get to submit their questions, but they get to upvote the questions, which is one of the new features that Spectrum has added. To our response to our overall community experience here. The most upvoted question, I just want to get this right out of the way, right up front.
Go for it.
Polls.
Yes.
The number one top voted question was polls. Where are polls in Spectrum? What's going on, guys?
Well, there's one thing you didn't mention when we started this out, Jared, is that this is an alpha, right? So we had to make very, very hard decisions to get to our first launchable, right? And polls was one of the content types we had to cut out. But we want to get that back into our forums. We want people to be able to insert polls into their OPs. We think it's great to be able to do that. So this is on our, I would say, medium-term roadmap to bring this back in. But we're also reevaluating. We're not trying to copy everything that's been done in forums before. We're trying to pick the best things out of all of this and integrate this into the Spectrum style. And so we're still on the fence about exactly how we're going to do polls, if it's going to be a thread type from the top that's going to be a poll, or if it's going to be something that you insert within another thread. So we're still debating how that's going to work precisely, but we're definitely going to have polls for sure.
Okay.
I'm curious as to why this is the most upvoted question.
I don't know. That's entirely the fault of our subscribers. So, guys, remember that you can submit questions into the subscriber chat live right now during our broadcast. If you would, you can preface your question with the word "question" in capital letters surrounded by brackets. That'll help me pull it out from the detritus. Now, As you mentioned, Spectrum is in alpha, just like everything else related to Star Citizen. We are building these processes out live in front of our citizens. So what is there today is not going to what's going to be there tomorrow, and not going to be what's there the day after. We will continue to iterate and build on this. What can you tell us about what's next for Spectrum? This was the second most popular question. What's the next thing for Spectrum?
So the most short-term thing that we're doing, right, which comes because we have two people, right, influencing our roadmap, right? There's the community, which is our number one, and then there's internal needs as well, right? And so the number one thing that we are working on currently, and that is slated for 0.33 release for Spectrum, is a new thread type called nested threads, which is basically, instead of simply having timeline-based threads, which are, classic form thread, where when you reply, it goes at the end, and we keep it pending, and you have a red state that's at a specific area. The threaded mode is a bit closer like Reddit. So first level replies are sorted by hot sort to start with. Well, upvotes, I'm sorry, not hot sort, but upvotes to get started. And then if you reply to somebody, it goes inside this nested tree. And then the nested trees can be sorted as well. And so this is closer to a Reddit style thread. And so the direction we're taking for this is that basically we're letting you guys pick which type of thread you want to launch. Obviously, like everything, and I'm going to say that a lot in these questions, but every feature that we build for Jared and for all the other community managers to use, we also make them for you guys to use within your own orgs. So I know that a lot of people, some of them are listening to these answers as for the public community of Star Citizen, and others are thinking about it for their own orgs. Both are true. So the idea is that when you create your OP, you can pick which type of thread you're launching, and when you're creating a forum channel, you can also decide which default thread type is going to be for that specific channel as well. And so hopefully that's going to give a lot of new types of discussions. And also, based on the type of discussion that you want, you pick the type of thread that you want the discussion to go into. And so we hope it's going to be a lot more engaging to have both styles in there. So that's our super short-term thing. That's what we're working on right now.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned orgs. You mentioned orgs in your answer there. We introduced the org system a little over 3 years ago, and org system is to my understanding, is created by you guys there at Turbulent. The addition of Spectrum was the first major update to the org system since we rolled it out. What's next for orgs?
Benjamin, you want to try to take this one? Well, since Benjamin was the original manager for the org project.
Well, that's the thing. The orgs actually had one semi-major development too. When 1 year after we launched it, was that the addition of being able to join multiple orgs at the same time,
right.
And having this kind of spy game where you could have your other orgs and affiliates redacted or hidden. What I would like to see soon in Spectrum is...
What is this, a feature request board?
Yes, that's going to become that. Is that we have deeper integration. Now that we have forums for the organizations, that we have sub-instances of Spectrum for organizations, I want to see more integration into Spectrum of everything that we used to have for all this. Like the fact that you have hidden and redacted organizations could transpire into Spectrum and kind of encourage that spying game that I like to see so much. In terms of features, honestly, that's kind of tricky, because what I see is that Spectrum is just going to become the new house for everything orgs related, and new features for orgs are actually not going to be org features. They're going to become Spectrum features that kind of have their counterparts for organizations.
Right.
So it's kind of tough to pinpoint exactly what's next for that, but it's giving more just more functionalities that people can have to make the org features in Spectrum more widespread. The one thing that I think is really important that we have to roll out really soon is, and I can't put any date on that, is the public subforums that you would have to an org. Like, you are the owner of an org and you can choose specific threads and chat rooms to become public. to anyone
Gotcha.
who may not even be a member or an affiliate of the org.
Gotcha. Like most common recruitment threads and stuff like that.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, recruitment threads, but also, like the ability to discover new orgs from within Spectrum without having to go out to the org system. One of the number one requested feature that we're seeing by pretty much, yeah, I could say everybody who's in an org is a revamp of the role system that we designed initially, which was very rigid for not only technical reasons at the time, but for design reasons, which today are less relevant. And so we're currently, this is another, I would say, short-term thing that we're trying to do is we want to give you guys the ability to create custom roles within Spectrum, assign members to multiple roles within your org. And then this way, this allows you to classify your people, give them access to specific forms, etc. And when this is completed, that gives us the stepping stone to what Benjamin was talking about, which is basically, the possibility of having public areas for your orgs where people can come in and have access to like this, public channel for a period of time or whatever. We're also considering other things. We're still open for discussion on that. So if you guys can talk about it on Spectrum, and we're gonna read, everything that's being said because we get influenced by that quite a bit. But the ability to create, to basically moving all of the recruitment functionalities from the org system was within Spectrum, so that you can invite people easily. A bit like other social networks would do with like invite links and stuff like that, something simple like that, so that you can invite somebody to a role within your org, et cetera, just making this thing a bit more fluid, making orgs more fluid, easier to create and move in and use. And so this is basically the next iteration for orgs before we start really tackling it in game, which has been, the reality is like, I know that the org system has been sort of on a holding pattern for a while because we sort of had to wait for the game to progress. That's the reality. Is like at some point, we can't just build this gigantic platform and then retrofit it because the design has changed, right? And so we want to try to avoid that. And so we had to sort of put it into a holding pattern. But now that things are moving quite forward within the game for how orgs are going to be displayed and how that's shaping up, then we can crystallize this design quite a bit.
Cool. You just answered like 3 questions all about orgs that I had on here.
So maybe before we move to the next one, Jared, there's one that I just saw in the chat. Someone was asking if Benoit is the French guy of the team. He's not, and there's a lot of confusion caused by the fact that our names are so similar. This is Benoit. I'm Benjamin, CTO, strategist, and I'm French. He's Canadian. That's it.
That's right.
He gets very touchy about this. This is not the first time we've had this conversation with.
I know, but he does. I know, right?
He's a very proud Frenchman, and he should be.
Yeah.
All right. So, skipping those org questions there. One of the things that happened today, in addition to Spectrum, you guys worked on our platform and our launcher. We just issued an update to the launcher. Folks in chat are noticing that there was a launcher update that just went out. What can you tell us about that update?
Well, unfortunately, it's not super exciting news on the update for the current launcher, but basically there's been a couple of bug fixes that went into the core of the patcher. And a lot of new analytics endpoints were added so that we can troubleshoot, more easily troubleshoot. Like our player relations team needed more information to be able to troubleshoot some people had issues on certain networks to be able to patch up. And so, we needed more information. So we've added that into this version of the launcher. Unfortunately, it's not like the new launcher. I know that there's a bunch of questions related to that, and maybe we can address those, but the new launcher is a completely different branch. And so this update is unrelated to what people like to call now the Delta Patcher, which I can talk more about if you guys have questions on it.
I can already tell you the only question about Delta patching anybody will have is when. When?
Well,
give now.
I know, right? It's
give
like
now.
So I can give you guys an update from our standpoint. The actual patching process, right, is progressing really nicely. The engineers working on the project are patching the game with this new method now. Builds are being produced with this new file format / system in place. and they're ironing out the kinks. On our end, we've received the patching library, and so we're integrating it into this new patcher application, which as far as you guys gonna look at it, it's the same app, right? But it's totally different. There's this, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. But the the patcher, the current patcher, I affectionately called the software stack that we use for it the Frankenstack, because it's using so many different pieces of technologies to get to work. This new patcher just cleans up a lot of that. Brings us up to speed to be able to bring Spectrum inside the launcher after that. So there's probably going to be a release of the launcher first, and then the launcher will be updated with Spectrum in it. But it's this new baseline. And so we're at the point now where internally, the internal tools are patching with this, not for everybody, but for the team working on this. The next stage is everybody's going to start patching with this. So this is, I don't know how many developers, Jared, at this point. Like, I don't even want to risk a number, but all these developers are going to start patching with it.
Yes.
When everybody's happy with that.
Yeah.
The work is being done in parallel to get that inside the actual application. So we're already doing this work, and then we'll be able to test and release it. So, I mean, it's no longer like a super far away project, I think we're getting closer and closer to being able to actually get at least Evocati on it. That's the best check.
Yeah. I can safely say that Delta patching is something we want just as much as the backers want it.
Yeah.
All right. So a question from the live chat that got 10 thumbs up. It's the highest voted question from the live chat here. How is development of org tools such as Fleet View coming along? Fleet View was a feature that we haven't talked about much recently. That would allow folks to allow folks to see all the ships held under the umbrella of a fleet. What can you tell us about Fleet View, if anything?
Well, the initial intent that we had for Fleet View when we actually put the link up there in 2013, almost 14 at this point, was to be able to generate this Fleet View dynamically for you guys, so that you could be able to visualize the size of an org, or etc. Obviously, the first hurdle that we got into at that point was like, some people don't want to share their ships with their org. Some people want to share some of their ships with their org, right? Some of them, so there's this whole visibility permission concept came in. And so this is where we needed to know how the game was going to address that. And that part is still being worked on actively right now. And so for now, Fleet View is still stuck like at we need to know like how this is going to work. Because it touches on a subject, which is like the overarching subject behind Fleet View is shared assets, right, for orgs, and then that's a bigger topic. And so that's all I can say for now is like it is frozen for now until we get more features done on Spectrum, and then maybe we'll move it in there. We'll see.
Something we're interested in.
Yeah, yes. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's one of the harsh realities of game development is definitely prioritization. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. All right, so our next most voted question has to do with voice over IP. When is voice over IP coming to Spectrum, Fardel? This is Fardel. Now, Fardel.
I don't know what time is it. Sorry.
Now, actually, the question specifically was, which codec are you going to use for voice over IP, and will we be able to stream data from Spectrum into the game? Like, for example, opening the forums with Mobiglass, receiving private messages from outside the game, and is this communication going to be secure?
Very nice.
Well, yeah.
Do you know which codec we're going to use, Benjamin?
No, I don't know what codec we're going to use. But as for the rest of it, I think the goal is to make it so that you can access stuff in the game, but not inside the game. It should be, and I think for usability, and it may break immersion a bit, but we need Spectrum to be an overlay in the game instead of being like inside of the tools. Because I can't imagine someone opening up the Mobiglass with the visibility that it has, and just starting to see Spectrum in there with the small font size that we have.
No, exactly.
And so we need it to be an overlay that's quickly accessible. It's not going to be a separate window, but it can be moved to a separate screen or something. It needs to be an in-game overlay that we can't it's not something that can be blurred into the game itself and its immersion.
Gotcha.
Well,
it's kind of like a Steam overlay, like built into the launcher, and then you like you hit Shift F1 or something, and it
Correct.
brings up. All right.
Yeah, the guys at Curse did that, and I think it's the most recent good example of something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly. Now the advantage that we have, one thing that differentiates, because I know that a lot of people have compared Spectrum to other social media communications platform, and that's normal because not to name them, we love them, right? So we're taking influence from those for sure. But one of the advantages that we have against not necessarily others, but is that we are the game and the platform. So we are at both ends of this tunnel, right? And so we can do a very deep integration with the game. Now, so the overlay can be more complex than hijacking or simply slapping a UI screen on top of the game. We can go a bit deeper in that. There are elements of Spectrum that will be used as backend services from within the game, and so don't expect that you're going to be able to pop your mobiGlas and see Spectrum in it. That's not where we're going, but you will be able to pop certain UI elements that actually use Spectrum behind the scenes, right? So, for example, the ability to create, channels that are shared between out of game and in game would be done through this kind of mechanics, where it's a UI that's sharing the same backend services. So, for example, the entire format for messages when you guys chat on Spectrum, whether you're talking in a forum or you're talking on a chat, is using a content state format that is agnostic from what is rendering it. And so this means that within the game, the game is using a whole different set of technologies than what we're using to build Spectrum inside the game to display, right? Diegetic UIs and all that stuff is using technologies that have been in the games industry for years, which are, I don't want to say primitive, right? But they're ancient, right? And so you need to plan your data format really well for that. But then, so the plan there is to be able to use this content state format that Spectrum provides to strip out stuff. So for example, if you have a chat channel that is shared between Spectrum and the game, and you're pasting an eggplant emoji, right? Or you're pasting an eggplant image embed, right? Well, then the game is not going to render that, right? We don't want floating emojis in space, right? Like this would totally break.
Some of us might.
Well, okay.
I'm just saying, if you give people the choice, do you want floating emojis and floating eggplants in space? The votes are going to be yes.
Sure.
So.
I don't know, man. Never say never. I don't know.
I'm not going to say never, but let's just say that for now, the plan is to basically have a more classical chat within the game, but it's shared, right? But that doesn't stop that rich chat from being displayed online. And so think of it as like a channel that's shared between two renderers that decide what they show, basically.
Yes. I want to be clear. I'm not one of those people who would vote. I think you're going about it the right way. I'm just saying, you put that choice to people, you're going to see some interesting answers.
So you get a Chuck Norris meme GIF when you're about to land. I don't know, I'm going to be, I'm trying to concentrate here.
So in addition to working on integrating voice into the web client for Spectrum, you guys are working on the voice integration for the game as well. What can you tell us about how that's going to, or how we intend that to work?
Right. So the thing we're working on right now, right, is for voice specifically, is the ability for you guys to create voice lobbies within the game. These voice lobbies our intent right now, and to answer a question we didn't answer just a few minutes ago, is we're planning to use the Opus codec, which is pretty much the best codec right now for voice, I think. And so this is browser dependent, platform dependent. We don't know, this is going to have fallbacks, but that's what we're targeting. And so our goal right now is to be able to give you guys the ability to create voice lobbies, right? Switch between these voice lobbies, and fast room switching is the first thing, so that you can be connected to voice, but fast room switch between rooms. That's the stage one. So that's within Spectrum. That's stage one. That lives outside the game totally. Now, at some point, we're going to start to carry voice for the game, meaning that the design right now that we have on the table is that when you're inside the voice lobby within Spectrum and the game is running, then the Spectrum will be able to send these datagrams to the game with information that says who's actually talking, right? And then you will hear that in-game spatialized at the right area, right? So that's the target. Now, if the game is down, then Spectrum plays the sound, right? That's basically, it's like an AirPlay speaker, right? It switches in or out. That's the best analogy I can give. I don't know if it's that good, but let's just say it works. And so that's the target for that. Now, I can preempt your next question, which is nested voice channels, which is what a lot of people have been asking for. Is that TeamSpeak has this functionality where you can nest voice channel and have a command channel and then Squadron channels, for example. Our intent is to try to match that functionality. To be honest, as of today, I have no idea how we're going to do that. Like if it's going to be like multiple stream connections or how we're going to allow switching between those two, or if we're going to do it brute force. But we think that this is one feature that would be required for an org in this game to function. And so we're going to try to reach that level, but obviously it's going to be iterative. We're going to have to go through first getting it in Spectrum Web, and then Spectrum Desktop, and then in-game, and then multi-channel stuff is pretty much how we're envisioning this rollout. And so voice in Spectrum isn't that far, but I don't want to put a date on it because there's a lot of testing to do and back and forth stuff. But still, we're working on that, and that's basically how we're envisioning voice for now.
All right. The next most common question has to do with the mobile app.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the eventual Spectrum mobile app?
Well, Benjamin, what do you have to say about this mobile app?
Well, that's so we have a core team now that works on Spectrum, that works on bringing new functionalities all the time. And since we're still in alpha, there's still a lot to do. That means that team has pretty much their hands full for a while. And we have that separate track that's working on voice. That means that we have to prepare for a third track of development to actually start building that app. What's good is that we've used React and such cool standards that it shouldn't be too hard to translate into mobile interfaces and an actual bundled up app that works. So that's encouraging, but we definitely have to slate it for a bit later. It's one of our goals, I think, for this year anyway. I can't put a date on it more precisely than that, but yeah, that's the thing, that it can't, and I think most fans could agree, it can't take precedence over voice and the current goal that we have, which is to match any standard set of features that we previously had on the forum, that we expect a forum/chat/poll engine to have.
Okay. All right. And will the voice over IP stuff, when that time comes, after the voice is done, after the mobile app's done, will the voice over IP stuff extend to the mobile apps as well?
So that is a big unknown right now. The bringing voice to mobile is a big deal because it's going to require a lot of the native code to be programmed for each platform, and there are a million platforms. Just getting Spectrum Web to work on all browsers is already a piece of work. So right now, voice in the mobile app is a bit, we're not sure if we're going to be able to get there. We'd love to be honest, because I think that would be super good. But we're really focusing the voice feature for desktop because that's what the game needs, right?
Yes.
That's really the number one priority, is to make it so that when you're gaming and you're using voice, it's kick-ass, right? And so mobile voice is like a secondary objective for sure. Speaking of mobile, the thing that's a bit of an issue is that right now we're having
Windows Phone.
God damn you, Josh!
That's
Josh slipped that into your thing. Is that what's happening? God damn it! So I was gonna say that right now with our alpha, we're having issues with the input on mobile phones, which is a bit like we've been struggling trying to fix the issues with the component that we're using for that. And so some of our engineers are like, let's prioritize mobile, get it out the door so we don't have to deal with this. So, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get a revolt and we'll have to do mobile first. We'll see how that's going to go.
This is a question from me. I want to see what your answer is. You're talking about the different tracks and everything. Why can't we just work on everything at the same time.
Oh, that would be awesome if we could do that. The reality is like
We don't have we don't have enough desks.
well, we don't have enough. To be honest, it's like we don't have enough people to be able to do that. And there's like typical constraints, right? Time, right? Money and quality, big two, right? Mm-hmm. And so in all of these cases, like right now, we could throw more people at the problem, but then, there's still budget constraints. Like our team, right, since the beginning of this project is, we build the platform around the game, right? We're not building the game itself. And so we have to keep our budgets and our team in check, right, at all times, right, to make sure that, we fit in a specific, budgetary slide. That also means literally people, right? How many people we can have at the same time, how many things we can tackle at the same time. Now, obviously, we can grow this, and add a lot of people, but this would really take a lot of time to assimilate new people into these tracks, organize them to be able to ship these features. One thing that we always forget in Star in general is that everybody's that's working on the project is shipping all the time. We're preparing patches, we're building, we're deploying. Like on Spectrum, since we started our first, Alpha 1.0 in end of November, we've been building weekly on PTU or production, right? And so that's a really, really, really tight like sequence. But shipping and building takes time. So like when we say, all right, we're building today, well, really today we're doing the build. Like some people are coding and we're still doing stuff, but it's like, if there's anything that pops up in the build, we got to interrupt people. We got to get it fixed. We got to, finalize this release. And so like all these things add up at some point, like, and so that's why it's budget, it's time, it's the amount of people, qualified people that can do the work. And so that's why we can't work on everything at the same time.
And it's when you're a crowdfunder project, it's important to spend and invest wisely. And
yes.
Not let things. Also, let's not forget that not every problem is solved by just throwing more people and more money at it. In fact, in my experience, very few things are actually solved that way.
No, that's right.
And also the thing is, Spectrum is not the only project we have right now. It's like Spectrum is one of the two or three tracks we have. Wow.
Within Star Citizen.
Star Citizen, like just within Star Citizen. Like we also are working constantly with the marketing team to get everything out in a timely manner. And there's a lot of stuff that we develop all the time, even like smaller stuff, like the new subscriber rewards that got out, was it this week or last week? That's even little projects like that take time and people to work on it. So it's tough to take on more people, and that just means that we need more like overseers.
Well, yeah,
you're spread thin enough.
Yeah, that's always the problem's always the same thing, right? When you grow the team, you get spread thin, and so at some point you need to start having this hierarchical setup. But then the overhead is bigger, right? And that's what we like about our team here at Turbulent, is that our RSI team's always been very lean and very tight, and so we're able to iterate faster. We're trying not to build this gigantic team, right, with managers and whatever, and try to keep it, startup style. And so, yeah.
All right. A question from the live chat here: will a dev tracker be added to Spectrum?
Oh,
we've talked about it a lot. I think what was thrown around, that maybe not a dev tracker like it used to be, but more like being able to follow people, follow certain roles, follow.
Yeah, so we've been exactly talking about that. It's funny we're reacting that way because we read all of your feedback. I know that some people in our Spectrum feedback forums were frustrated because we're not answering everybody, but the reality is we're reading everything. We have a fan actually in our offices that came in 2 weeks ago. You guys probably know him on the community called as Fulgrim, and so he's here.
On the chat right now.
He's on the chat right now, and so Fulgrim came in as an intern. He's giving us a hand on QA and everything, and so he's been like building these reports for us based on feedback, and so we're trying to prioritize what you guys want, and trying to put that in order. And so it's funny because the dev tracker is something that comes back quite a bit and that we've been talking about. Now we're approaching it a bit differently because the dev tracker in the old forum, like for the record, the old forum was a real mess to deal with as an engine on an engine point of view. And so we actually put in the dev tracker functionality in it, so we're approaching this differently for Spectrum because, as we said, every feature we build for the public community should be usable within the orgs. And so we have roles. We know that you can configure roles to be highlightable within your org, right? And so a highlightable role can then decide when he writes which role he's going to highlight his message with. So that's why sometimes you see people with yellow, like Fulgrim in chat right now. Some people have orange; those are rarer. Mods will have the purple color. And so the dev tracker idea that we have for this right now is the ability to basically see if a highlighted role is posted within a thread, allow you to jump to a reply directly from one reply to the next of a highlighted role. And this goes also in tandem with a feature that this is brand new and we haven't finished the design for yet, but the idea of having some sort of a front page for your community. So instead of when you click on Star Citizen Spectrum and you see a list of lobbies and forums, we'd like to have an area in this that's like hot activities, so hot threads, but also like highlighted role actions. So like, Disco Lando just replied to this thread, or upvoted this thing. And so you could see all of this action log going through, a bit like a Facebook ticker for some of that. So that's where we're going with Dev Tracker. Obviously, we're also going to need to have the standard, just search list, like show me all the posts that have been highlighted. We're going to use the search for that. We're going to add that functionality in the search. So that's how we're looking at it right now. And so what I just talked about, this would work within your org, and it would work in the public community as well.
All right, another question from the live chat. Turbulent got a lot of well-deserved praise for the star map. Yes, you did. Congratulations. But what is next for the star map?
Actually, I was reading that question earlier and made me think that I don't think we have anything planned right now, just because what a lot of people don't realize is that the star map is actually constantly changing, and the writers, the whole writer team of Star Citizen has access to changing anything they want in the systems, and it may be just as simple as changing a description, but it can also be the texture, position, axis, anything they want to change in any particular system in the star map, they can already change. So there's a lot of changes coming in all the time in the star map. I think the one really big thing that's going to come down the line, which is going to be really far down the line, is when we have an actual persistent universe to draw data from and integrate that into the star map, so that the star map reflects the state of the economy, the state of all the systems, the state of all the bases, anything that's actually live data from the game, from the persistent universe that gets fed to the star map. But that's obviously we have to wait for the game components to actually fulfill all that.
And obviously, like this would power like the 2D overlay for danger, threat, economy, and population. Yes. We're going to add more features there. There's a few things that I could mention on Star Map which are not finalized, and that's why Benjamin's a bit like on the fence about talking about it. But the next stage for the Star Map is Galactapedia. That's the next stage, yes. Right? And so it's to take the baseline of the star map and then expand the wiki elements around it so that we can have full-fledged articles on everything that is related to Star Citizen, whether it's a word or a phrase or whatever. Mm-hmm. The plan with Galactapedia is to build that as an agnostic database that obviously the writers can write in, that at some point we can get community contributions on it, and that the game will pull from. And that's one other element where you could expect a mobi-glass integration of the Galactapedia component. That's why we're going to use the same message format that Spectrum is using as well for this. Now, one thing we've been talking about that we're, hopefully we can tackle at some point. I don't want to promise it, but that's my personal technical dream about the star map is to get WebVR support for it, so that you could basically browse the star map with WebVR with your headset, just go around it. I would love to be able to implement that. Our guys here are super excited to work on that, but we just need some kind of a plan first before we get there. But yeah, that's what we'd like to do.
All right. You've worked on a lot of things for Star Citizen. One of them we haven't talked about, we just got a question about, was the Issue Council.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that quite a lot of viewers may not even know what the Issue Council is if they've never bothered to use it and submit a bug report. So why don't you tell us real quick what the Issue Council is and what, if any, plans there are for its future?
As to what it is, the Issue Council is a slightly gamified crowdsourced QA system, meaning that it's a way
That's a lot
to,
of buzzword right there.
Yes, but that's what it is. You know how you pitch a concept, you throw
Sure.
all the
words,
buzzwords
all
you
the
have,
cool
and then
words.
you try and make something out of it.
Right.
It's just simply put, it's a way for any fans or players to submit their own bugs that they've found on the game, on Spectrum, on the website, on anything, into a single system where then other people can come and contribute and approve, support or disprove and downvote existing bugs, instead of having to dig through tons and tons of forum data to just find what people are experiencing in terms of bugs and feedback. And that's a way for people to be able to get involved into the development of those bugs, and then being able to follow the development of those, like the fixes for those bugs.
Yeah, the typical thing that game companies do for bug tracking, right, is always the same, is that they open a public bug tracker, like a public Jira, or they open a public Lighthouse or whatever, and then people put their bugs in, right? Now, the Issue Council tries to solve a problem, which is, like, within a year, right? I think we got about 40,000 reports. Like, don't quote me on the numbers, I'm going off my memory, but
36.
Well, something like this, whatever. We got about 40,000 bug reports in the Issue Council. Only 12% of those were community confirmed, right? And that's the big number, right? Usually, typical game companies will start a public bug tracker, and then a year in, they have 40,000 reports, and they will never go back to check that, right? And so what we're trying to do with the Issue Council is a system where the community can really help by vetting those tickets, right, before we import them into our internal work list, right? And then help us prioritize them, right? And so, like, just for Spectrum as a super good example, we've used the Issue Council extensively for Spectrum initial testing, and we're continuing to do it for the live version. But we've been able to basically test the app on multiple platforms using way less QA people, right? Because you guys were helping us do it, right? And ETF, like all the Evocati guys, like, kudos you guys, that was awesome. Like, these guys have been so helpful, and like I don't even have to announce when we put a release up on PTU now. Like, they just pick it up right away. It's like, oh, I just tested a new version. Here's a new bug, and this is so great because we don't want to regress bugs, right, and put new bugs in. And so the Issue Council allows us to do that because other people can vet the reports before we look at it. Our time is limited, so we're trying to see what's been vetted, and so the Issue Council really gives us this platform to do that.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so what's planned next for the Issue Council is we're going to try to do deeper integration within Spectrum for the IC, so that we get OEmbed summaries for bug reports when you post a link. We are probably going to try to get some call to actions to link to the IC from Spectrum, stuff like that. So that's the future for IC. There's also a bunch of bug fixes and features that we have in the build list, but like, once again, we've been forced to leave it on the side a bit. But if you guys go to your Senate representative, Will Everett, he can put some pressure for us to get those done.
What I was going to add is one of the most common questions we get regarding Evocati is how do people become Evocati? And while there's a couple factors in the process, there's probably none more important than your participation on the Issue Council. So if you are interested in joining the Evocati, submit. It's not just submitting bugs to to Evocati. It's being able to reproduce the ones that are already submitted, verify them, help the QA identify the most pressing, issues, and basically help the process along. So you can do that with issue council. So. Yeah,
I remember during the first wave of PTU with the Spectrum on PTU, there's one member, Void Singer, who's been with us for a while, went through every single report on the PTU Spectrum to either vet or unvet them, and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, that's a lot of work, but it's great because it gives us so much insight. To be honest, like, this is invaluable information that we're getting by looking at these reports and fixing them. So.
All right, here's another question from the live chat. This is a question that we've been fielding for quite some time, and I'm pleased to say that we're actually moving on it right now. What's up with the ship stats page?
What's up, Benjamin?
Well, no, wait, because you know how it is.
I know how it is too, but
some of those projects are so early in concept that it's tough to know what we can actually talk about and not like put our foot in our mouth.
No, that's okay. Just go from the top.
Well,
what is this stat page and why is it always out of date?
We've noticed there's a lot of discrepancies between the game and the data that's displayed on the website. There's a lot of issues. No, that's like 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
So hang on. One thing I want to say just before you start going down this route, right, is that the ship stats on the website were designed a long time ago.
Yes.
And they were designed and programmed at the time. First of all, I want to dispel one thing, is that we have a full suite of tools to update and maintain these stats, right? There's not a lack of tools or personnel to manage it. There's the one thing that's important to note is that these stats on the site were made to represent design intent for a ship, right? And so that's the main thing, right? We're trying to showcase what the designers want to do with the ship, where the ship should go based on the stats and the rules of the game that are public right now, right? And so with this model, there's always going to be a discrepancy between the game and the ship stats, right? On the finer detail, right? But the inverse is also true. Like, if tomorrow morning we write a program that fetches all the data from the game and updates the ship stats, then there's no longer any jump drives anywhere. Everybody's going to go crazy, right? And so, but we want jump drives. Jump drives will be there, and so that's the difference, right? And so we don't want to do per component tracking. That'd be crazy. At some point, that's where we get to cut the line at some point and say.
Well, that's the thing. There needs to be a human involved somewhere, just to make to be able to tell the difference between something that's design intent, like you said.
Yes.
Something that has changed in design, like for balancing reasons, we've changed the loadout on the specific ship, and stuff that's actually sometimes just a temporary setback for technical reasons. Like, this gun doesn't work in this current release, so we've replaced it with the sucker punch, something like that. So
also, let's not forget that sometimes the stat is changed for an individual patch to test a thing, and there's no guarantee that that's not even our intention for it. It's let's just test something for this patch, see how it works. We're pretty sure that's not what we want to do, but we have the freedom to test, so let's do it. But you don't necessarily want that reflected on the page. Then the stats on the page just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there's no consistency ever.
Right. Yes. So we've been working for a few weeks now with members of the CIG ship design team to get a new state of stats for all the ships, some like a revised list that's all encompassing, and at the same time we've worked on the new design for the page, mainly like what do we want to display and how to be able to show more and in more details about the specific loadouts of all the ships, and that's hopefully in one shot is going to help us have that be more closer to what the game actually has in terms of stats and loadouts, and also get rid of most of the oldest and most outdated discrepancies that we have.
Right.
So we are working on design now. So we're designing the way it's going to look, because there's a new icons, there's a new sections here and there. Yeah, but when I say design, I mean art. So we are working on art right now, so that how it's going to be displayed into the website. And that should move into development pretty soon.
Yeah. because it's important to remember that you guys designed it for the way that we were building ships at that time, and then we changed the way that we were building ships. we didn't just change the stats of the ships; we changed the kinds of stats that exist for the ships, and it's never been as simple as just plugging the new numbers into the old system. The old system didn't have entries for many of the new numbers. So it's taken us a while. That's part of game development, is figuring out exactly how you want things. And now that we're at a place where we're pretty happy with how we've got ship stats broken down internally, now we can give those things to you and have you update the webpage.
Yeah,
so
that's right. That's kind of the old Simpsons joke, like, I used to be with it, and they changed what it was.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we got here? Let's see. Back to Spectrum here. The question is simply API.
Oh yeah.
What, for folks who don't know what an API is, what is an API, and how and what are our plans to allow folks to use that? How will folks benefit from having an API?
Sure. So API stands for Application Programming Interface, and is basically a way for people to write their own programs, right? But use the services that are provided by this API to be able to perform actions, right? Without having to click, if I can go like super simple, right? Without having to click all the buttons in the UI to do the actions. So this allows you to write bots, or, let's say you could write something to integrate your users from your org or stuff like that. And so we have plans to have an API for Spectrum specifically for servicing orgs, most likely. But obviously, like when I say that, I mean a machine-specific API. I'm not just talking about, because obviously there is an API. The client that you're using when you're using Spectrum is using this API already. But what we're talking about is a dedicated machine API, so that you can write your own programs and have an API key to be able to work it without having to use your own account credentials to log in and all that stuff. So we have plans to do that. As soon as we start crystallizing the feature set for Spectrum, we want to start rolling out functionality as an API for Spectrum, so you can create your lobbies and stuff like that. There's still a lot of internal debates on this, because there is one thing, like normally it would be a no-brainer. We'd just build an API and that's it. Now with a game, right? It's a fine line, because I'll just do it like this. If chat's integrated, if chat is integrated in the game, and there's an API for chat, and you can write bots for chat, and chat exposes actions like trading or stuff like this, right? Then you can write bots to trade. Then that gives an unfair advantage to people who can program. Then that's a game design problem, right? And so we're going to have to really thread really finely on that edge. But the utility functions for the Spectrum API will be mostly about making your life easier, creating lobbies, managing roles, managing like all the housekeeping of the org, and not specifically being able to interface with the game just yet. That's going to be pretty much in a phase 2, phase 3 of the API. Okay. But we want to do one for sure, because a service like this needs to have one.
Gotcha. One of the top voted questions on the forum post was, somebody said, it would be fun if we had a universal translator on text, so everyone could just type in their native language. Google has it. Could it be something we look into for Spectrum?
Yeah, that's deep. I mean, okay, I'm going to start with this. There's a bunch of machine learning stuff that we've been looking at, which is, like, to be fair, in web development, this is the trend right now, is everything AI and machine learning. And so there are APIs that we could integrate within Spectrum to do things like translation, things like toxicity assessments for messages, right? That's one thing that's always, when we meet Jared in LA or the community managers, it's always the same thing. We're trying to find a way to keep our community fun, and so toxicity is always one subject that comes back. And so there are machine learning APIs we could leverage to do that, but they work only in certain languages. And so we're looking at this, but to be honest, we're really focused on getting the real functionalities done before we go to a higher level of like integration with translations and everything. But specifically for translation, there might be other options we could use on the web platform to do that. So we're gonna have to keep our eyes open to see if we could do a short implementation for something like that.
All right. Next most upvoted question has to do with emojis. When are we getting custom emojis for Spectrum?
I think if you were to ask Laurent, what would Laurent say? He's our lead developer on the project.
He would say, I can already make my own.
Yes.
But no, you would say, dude, that's what I wanted to do all along, right? So like that's one feature that we're gonna want to do as soon as possible. I know Jared is probably the one asking that question. So
Maybe.
I don't see that in the forums. Where's this question in the forums?
It's in a special forum that I have. It's the number one question by a Disco Lando.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So no, that I can't give a date just yet, but I would expect, like, we're at 032 right now.
Uh-huh.
033 is going to be mostly threaded subreddits. 034, we're not sure exactly what's going to be in it yet. We're shooting for convenient stuff for the orgs. I think that within 035, we can think of having our custom emojis in there. There's two things we plan on customizing there. There's the custom sprite sheets, right, and short codes for your emojis. So each org can define their own. And then the upvote icon, so that if you decide that in your org you want to upvote bananas instead of the Spectrum icon, then that's all power to you, right? And so these are the two like customization options related to emojis that we want to do specifically there. No plan yet for like a global list, but this might actually come out of the development that we do.
Yeah.
Like that we have like a Star Citizen custom emoji list that Jared manages by himself.
Yes. No, I can already tell you that once we have the ability to add custom emojis, I plan to run my own the next great Star Citizen emoji contest, and we'll have people submit their own custom emojis, and we'll vote. We'll open it up to the community and whatnot, and then we'll select the top winners, and we'll submit them to you for inclusion. Maybe see if we can get the community to add a couple global emojis.
That'd be awesome.
Yep. No, if it'll be my legacy on this game. That stupid ass emoji.
The red shirt.
Yep. No. No, there will never, under any circumstance, be a red one emoji. That won't happen.
Just the one red. I think we have it.
Yeah. So we are almost at the end of our broadcast time. Let's see what questions we have still pending in the question. Will future Spectrum be specifically designed to work off of a primary CPU thread? Resource utilization is a concern.
That is true. Currently we don't have the ability to customize that. We're hoping that with our overlay we'll be able to basically move, and the desktop version and overlay that we'll be able to pin that to specific CPU. Running in the browser right now, we have no exposure for that, so it's just going to use whatever it's got.
Gotcha.
So we'll see.
All right. See if we can squeeze one more in before we go. Any more from the list? Here's a little, kind of a long one about in-game states. Right now, when you use Spectrum, you can people can see whether you're in the game or not in the menus, just on the browser. It says, with multiple in-game states, will we be able to communicate between these mediums seamlessly and holistically via chat? Voice over IP, and perhaps direct trade, limited game mechanics, even if just checking in-game prices and stocks reserved for later gameplay.
Right. Yes, that's what we're trying to shoot for with the in-game integration, is that you have areas that are shared between your out-of-game Spectrum and your in-game Spectrum, and on those channels, a bit like if you look at Facebook Messenger, right? There are specific things that you can do, like send money or specific send actions. We're gonna want to implement our own special messages like this. Now, one thing that is just underneath this question that I found way more interesting, and I'm going to talk about and sideline the entire thing, is friends. right? Because we haven't talked about the friend system, but the contact system, which we're looking at currently is on the platform. Obviously, we're going to have to bring it down to Spectrum because that's where you interact with people.
Yep.
And so we're currently reworking parts of that. Currently, it's what you guys have access to is a contact system where I can add you to my list, and that's something that we want to keep, right? Something as easy as, I see you, I like you, or whatever. I put you in my list, and that's it, right? I like you, Jared. I'm gonna put you in my list. And so, but I don't that friend handshake of going like, I want to be your friend, and then you say yes, and then we're friends. Hey, we're friends. Don't go away. What's going on here? Oh my god! And so the idea of adding friends to your list, the handshake, right? We're trying to keep that as simple as possible so that there's no overhead. And instead of that, we want to sort of I thought it was someone else coming back to
Yeah.
I have no one else here. It's just me.
So the idea is that basically being friends is implying a bunch of permissions, right? And instead of hard coding those permissions, we want to build a system that's more granular, but also can be reused for all kinds of permissions. So for example, and I'll throw just some examples, and we're still designing this, so this is going to change quite a bit, but so I can add you to my list without having to ask you for anything. But if I want to see your location in game, or I want to send you a private message, or I want to invite you to a mission, then I sort of need to ask permission. So I could then send you a permission request, right? Which could bundle a bunch of permissions, or just request just one, and then say like, hey, this is the first time Benjamin's messaging you. Do you want to allow him to message you? Yes, no, only for this session, right? And so when you look at people's profile, you'll see like Benjamin can message you directly, can see your in-game location, can invite you to missions, and then you can toggle these permissions on and off. And so this, if you want invite or permission request system, we can build only one and then use it for all of these permissions. So that's where we're going for the friend system in terms of how this would work within Spectrum, and we're hoping that this would also extend to the game. So we're deep in talks related to that.
Yeah, and of course, any plan you have to consider characters as well.
That's right.
People are going to have multiple characters, and people are going to want contacts on one character, but not want contacts on another character. Because this is my Good Samaritan character, and this is my pirate character, and I don't want people seeing me when I switch between the characters and stuff. So all that.
You're not gonna do that, Jared, are you? Are you
no.
Our red guy and the police guy. Is
no,
that what's going on?
The only thing I'm going to do is warp into people's bathrooms and just hang out in their ships. So there's a lot of considerations for a friends list. We were talking about that when you were here in town 2 weeks ago.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. That's the hour. Congratulations, you survived.
Yeah, we did.
It's your first subscribers town hall. How'd you like it?
It was good.
Cool.
I like it. You guys are awesome.
I would be remiss if I didn't compliment you on your fantastic Miami Vice poster in the background. It's been very hard for me not to just zero in on that poster.
It's handmade by the designer who actually designed the RSI site.
All right.
How's that?
That's
very nice.
More
and by the way, in case you guys didn't notice, we have this banner right here from our Montreal fans that all signed it for us, the Last Bar Citizen. So it's awesome. Thanks to these guys. We're really happy to have that around. And Andre's been asking me to post some pictures of it up in the office while he's got it straight in the town hall, so it's even better.
Awesome. All right, guys. So thank you for joining us here on the Subscribers Town Hall. That was Benjamin Beausejour. Did I say it right? Is that close?
No,
Nope. It's Benoit Fardel.
And oh my gosh,
That's right.
See, and I even said it at the beginning of the stream.
It's because you did the French thing. It's because you got the French thing in my head, and it went like this. I was so focused on saying it right because I never say it right.
That's right.
Those are two guys from Turbulent. I'm one guy from Cloud Imperium Games.
Sounds good.
We'll see you next month, everybody.
See you in the verse, guys.